Good evening, everybody. Can everyone hear me up the back there? Raise your hand. Fantastic. Friends, colleagues, students, visitors, welcome to this special lecture by Attilio Terragni, entitled The Temple of Architecture. My name is Philip Goad. I'm Redmond Barry Distinguished Professor and also Chair of Architecture here in the Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning at the University of Melbourne. I begin this evening's proceedings by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which this event is taking place, the land of the Wurundjeri people, and pay respect to their elders, families, past and present. It's a pleasure this evening to be able to host Attilio Terragni here at the Melbourne School of Design, and I very much look forward to his presentation this evening. As part of Attilio's visit, we have the double pleasure of hosting an accompanying exhibition upstairs in the Dulux Gallery, which celebrates the works of Attilio's great-uncle, Giuseppe Terragni. The exhibition, titled A Modernity Different from All Others, Giuseppe Terragni in Rome, details Giuseppe Terragni's projects in Rome, and it'll be open to the public in the Dulux Gallery until the 7th of April. The exhibition upstairs provides an opportunity to focus on a very complex figure. Giuseppe Terragni was an architect who joined the battle for the Italian architectural avant-garde, but at the same time, he found himself confronting the demands of tradition imposed by fascism and his own personal will to combine a rationalist language with a Mediterranean spirit. And this balancing act, we will see, is evident in many of his projects. A recently established archive of Terragni's works and designs has brought about a renewed interest in one of Italy's most influential architects, and it's paved the way for this exhibition to become a reality. New technology has been applied to original graphics, plans, elevations and sections to create new graphics, new videos and digitally fabricated models, and all are on show upstairs in the Dulux Gallery. And these are juxtaposed with original plans and vintage photographs. Previously displayed at the Casa dell'Architettura, the House of Architecture Museum in Rome, we're thrilled now to host this exhibition in Melbourne. Now, many people have been involved in making this exhibition come to fruition, and I'd like to thank them all for their dedication and vision. In particular, I'd like to thank Attilio Terragni, Flavio Mangione and the Archivio Terragni for their comprehensive and committed research into Giuseppe Terragni's life and works. La Sapienza University in Rome for supporting the archive with such commitment and enthusiasm. A special thanks to the Italian Cultural Institute here in Melbourne and the Italian Consul General Marco Cerdo, who have helped make it possible for this exhibition to be hosted here in Melbourne. I'd also like to thank the MSD Events and Exhibition team for their tireless work in producing a unique exhibition, also getting us in here on time, and the MSD FabWorks for their fabrication of the digital models. I'd like now to hand over to the Melbourne School of Design's Chair of Design, Professor Donald Bates, who'll say a few words and introduce Attilio. Thanks, Don.
Thanks very much, Philip. I'm not going to do a big introduction, but I did want to make two sort of connections here. First, Giuseppe Terragni, who's the subject of the exhibition upstairs, was born in 1904 and died in 1943, so a very short life, effectively only 16 years as a practicing architect. But there's an interesting sort of life cycle that's involved in this. So Giuseppe Terragni had a brother, Attilio Terragni. Giuseppe Terragni was an architect, and Attilio Terragni was an engineer. And they formed an office together in 1927 at the age of 23. Giuseppe never had any children, but Attilio Terragni had two sons, Emilio Terragni and Carlo Terragni. Emilio became an architect, and Carlo became an engineer. Emilio had 3 daughters, one of whom, Elisabetta Terragni, became an architect. Carlo Terragni had 2 sons and a daughter, one of whom, Attilio Terragni, became an engineer. But in order for this not to go on forever, Attilio Terragni, who's with us today, also became an architect. So now it comes together in one person. Attilio Terragni, architect and professor of architecture at the Dessau Institute of Architecture. In 1988, I met Attilio for the first time as part of an architecture workshop that took place in Como, assisted ably by Attilio and his family, at the Asilo, this incredible kindergarten school by Terragni in Como. Daniel Libeskind formed something called Architecture Intermundium and held a 3-week architecture workshop in Como with 50 students from around the world. I was part of his team, and at this point I met Attilio. A year later, we assisted Libeskind on his competition entry for the extension to the Berlin Museum with Jewish collection. This eventually became what is now known as the Jewish Museum in Berlin. I worked on the competition closely with Attilio and a couple of others, as well as some students with Danielle. And then after having won the competition, Attilio continued to work with Libeskind on the development of the sort of design stage that was eventually realized. Between sort of 1989 and 1991. In 1998, and even before in 1997, I was working on, with my colleague Peter Davidson, who's here in the front row, the competition design for Federation Square. And we asked Attilio if he could come and help us. So Attilio came to Melbourne in 1998 for the first time. He liked it, decided to stay, and brought his family to Melbourne. He had a son, Carlo Terragni. And we don't know yet if he'll become an architect or an engineer or none of the above. But Attilio is back here now with an Australian son. The son is not here, but he has an Australian son. After Attilio went back to Milan, he worked from about 2005, 2015, again with Daniel Libeskind. He basically set up the office in Milan for the work, a lot of projects that were being done in Italy, but also throughout Europe and other places. And in 2013, he became the professor of architecture at the Dessau Institute of Architecture. In 2010 to 2015, this is when the work that makes up the background to the exhibition that we have upstairs took place through the University La Sapienza in Rome and the Center for the Study of Rationalist Architecture, along with the Terragni Archive in Como that Attilio is on the board of and directs. And with that put together, as Philip mentioned, the exhibition which first opened in 2015 at the Casa dell'Architettura in Rome. We're very pleased to have Attilio here. We're extremely pleased to have this incredible exhibition and the work that makes up this exhibition. Today and right now, I think we're going to have an incredible sort of journey and story along one project of Giuseppe Terragni, the architect, by Attilio Terragni, the architect. Attilio.
Is it working? Yeah? So it's on. Thank you very much. It was a great introduction. Now, also you can understand why I put an A after Attilio A. So my second name is Albert. So it's just to try not to be too much confused into these incredible stories, family stories. I'm really delighted to be here. And before starting, of course, I would like to thank all the people that has been working with the archive for 3 years, young students, really enthusiastic for this research into project that they really believe that, can give them something. That even if they're coming from the past, they're really open, to the future. And I really want to thank the University in Rome, the University in Milan, and the archive. And second, I would really like to thank all the people, Melbourne University, who is hosting this exhibition, and all the people that has been working, Philippa, Michelle, James, I don't remember all the names, but thanks a lot. But one thing I would like to do before starting the lecture, I would like you to help me to thank your professor and my good friend for making this really possible, Donna Bates. Okay, I have to get used to this. No, okay, no, sorry. One moment, yeah, I know. Okay, so, you know, we brought here an exhibition that is basically with 10 projects for Rome. And this exhibition is, you know, it's really too complex for a lecture. So I really decide to start to talk to you with this image by Giotto. Giotto here is giving his project as a gift to the city, you know, as a gift to the city of Padua and to the people that are living there. And I really think it's a great thing as an image that architecture should be a gift, should be something that you give to a city, to a people. That's really impressing, this gesture. And for me, I decided to do a long way to trying to have a gift for you. Because it's not only, you know, knowing and describing building or, you know, telling how they work, but it's really, I'm trying to tonight to give you something, a gift, so something that you can take with you. Okay, that's my my dream, is to being able, you know, to have you going home with this architecture with you and use it as a tool, like it's supposed to be used, like I discover can be used. And so we will talking about the project. This is just a preliminary image of the Danteum, but I don't want to show you the project. I want to have a journey with you into this process of doing the project. So we are doing together, you know, we're doing now. And I hope, you know, a lot of people can also think, you know, while we are doing this, how I would solve this, how I would, you know, how that's very difficult, how, you know, that can be done. Because that's the interesting things of the process in architecture, you know, it's like a journey, it's like an experience, it's like life, you know, it's like that we are going from one point to the other point, you know, and we always change and we are in this travel of life. So that's the kind of analogy that I want to propose. As you see here, maybe you don't know them, but probably because of we have an architect, Giuseppe Terragni, and we have a poet, Dante Alighieri. You know, Dante Alighieri is the maximum, you know, is our cultural identity. Italy has, you know, the Commedia as really the starting of our national identity. And it would be something like for Anglo-Saxon culture, probably Shakespeare, you know, something like, you know, so dense and so incredible, difficult to go through in a simple way. Now, so what we are talking to, tonight, the Danteum, we are facing the fact that architecture has to deal with poetry, which is not something that happens so often. You know, usually we still under the idea, the Plato idea, you know, the poetry should be out of the city, you know. We want only serious things, you know. And Plato was really, you know, not accepting poetry and poets in his Republica. And I think this also in architecture has become for a long time, you know, a kind of things that nobody has ever tried, you know, from the architectural point of view, from the architectural point of view. And now, so the theme of this building is a program given that is not a technical, that is not a functional program, that, you know, is not about, you know, how many rooms. It's about a poetry. And there are, how you approach this. The stroke of genius of the Danteum is to use analogy. Okay. Modern architecture, everybody, is thinking that it's based on rational logic, that, everything is as a consequence. But the title of the exhibition here, A Modernity Different from All the Other, it's because of this, because at the center of the language of modern architecture in Italy is the analogy. Analogy is a way of thinking. It's a much wider way of thinking of logic. Logic is just a small reduction of the analogy of the word. And it's a knowledge. It's a knowledge. So you have, proportion, symmetry. They are completely different in an analogic word than in a logic word. And so one of the great characteristics of this architecture and why it's so open is because it's using analogy. But which kind of analogy? Because there are at least two kinds of analogy. One is the one that I'm showing here. This is the analogy of content. And so the analogy of content is, the expression of the poetry, of the story, of anything you want architecture to talk about, but as a figure, as a decoration, as somebody that jumps here, you see, the guy, or about monster that you paint, and this is it's still here, the analogy, this kind of analogy is everywhere. When you go to a cafe, when you go to a supermarket, when you really go around the city, we are full of this content analogy. And this has been solving, the problem of the relationship or the not relationship between poetry and architecture, as a void. So this is architecture, and this is the things I want to say, and I put on the facade, and then they work together. Now, the great things with the Danteum is that is using a formal analogy. Formal analogy means that you don't talk about, this kind of, you don't have a figure. It's an abstract way of thinking. And what does it mean? It means that you have to have some form that join together. Analogy between this form and this form. And analogy means that I will find this form that I don't know through this form that I know. Is that clear? I mean, usually we do this every day. It's the way we live. But it's kind of difficult to, think that this is the DNA of architecture, or especially of modern architecture. So, analogy means, I have a form, a form is there, and then through this form, I will find the other form. But the Danteum is more than this. It's more than this because what is the genius of this building? That this building is using the analogy, and then at the end is creating one building. So this building is a double building, basically. So it's a building that contains two forms. The forms that I have, the forms that I'm looking for, and then I put them together, and they really work together. They exactly talk about the poetry, they talk about architecture at the same time without a single figure, without a single name, without saying anything. So it's really a great, as a program, let's see how this could happen. I mean, for me, it was always very, very interesting. Now, let's see the first complexity. If I give you a very simple poet, okay, it might be okay. But I give you Dante. So the form, the given form, is an incredible piece of literature that millions of people have been working on, comments, stuff, and of course Dante, is well known for a love story. So because he was looking for Beatrix, in the paradise. So it's full of things that probably they are not really necessary for a formal analogy. So we have to say and discover Dante as an architect. And I usually teach a Dia, and I present him as an architect. I think he was one of the best architects ever. Even Plato was a fantastic architect because they really create words for us, spaces that didn't exist before. So in order to have this forma, this poetry that we can really relate to architecture, we have to go and see which kind of word, which kind of architecture the poetry has created. Now, Dante was not starting from zero. As this is just born. I don't want to make it very long, but just give you three essential notions. The first is why Dante became an architect. Dante became an architect because he wanted to do the same things of Moses, basically. Moses went to the Sinai, he talked to God, he came back and said, these are the law. Okay, now we're going to follow this. But, you really have to believe that he spoke, and we don't know about this meeting. We don't really, it might happen, it might not. So Dante wants to take this kind of situation, and in order to make you believe that this really happened, he had to create an incredible architecture that, you can tell and you feel that it existed. It's like if I talk to you about, the Duomo in Milano. It's not here, but, I can tell you everything just to make you believe, that it exists. So he became an architect basically for this reason, and his archetype was, it's a little bit pixelated, but okay. And of course, he has, as an archetype, just as a beginning, you just have an architect, has something in their mind. And he has the Babel Tower, and the Babel Tower, was trying to reach God through architecture. And he said, they didn't, so maybe I can reach God with a Babel Tower that is built by words, and it really worked by words, And so he used this kind of idea because that was the only probably archetype, that was connected, trying to connect the sky to the earth. Okay, the third one, the most important one, is experience of the Battistero in Florence. The Battistero in Florence was the only one built when Dante was just running around Florence. And so he used to go and see inside the Last Judgment, into this place. And he was really, really shocked, about this figure of the devil. This figure of the devil, you will not find a lot. I don't think there are so many. I never find one, by the way. But it's the only one with 3 heads. So for him, this image, it would be like for us to looking to the tragedy of the towers in New York, people falling, something so bad, Think about the worst image that you can think today, the one you don't want to see, the guys, the little kids that die, the immigrants that dies, something, so that really hurt you that you say, I have to do something. I really have to do something. Looking at this, you say, I really have to do something. I really have to, invent something because we have to defeat this incredible devil who is eating all of this people here. And you see, the number 3 here appears immediately. There are 3 heads, so the bad is something that is divided, can never be unified. It's something that has, is made out of parts that they don't go together. And they have different colors. That means also that there are different meanings with these colors, relate to the 7 deadly sin. Okay, so that's really, and this is the beginning. This is the beginning of Dante trying to see what he could do with this. And of course, he invented the story that the angel, the devil, was falling down, boom, by God, just, and then it crashed into the earth, and it created this incredible, forms. This is a drawing by Botticelli, maybe it's a well-known painter, and is one of the first representation of the Inferno of the. And then you see, boom, it comes here, and here is Lucifer, this guy, this terrible guy here is trapped, and the last circle, because of course this form it's done by circle, and then it's a decreasing circle, then you get to the last one, and in the last one in the center here, it's Lucifer completely blocked, and the last one is divided in 4 sectors. That this 4 sectors are something incredible. Imagine all this hell, inferno, with a lot of noise, bam, bam, fire, people crying, and then suddenly you're going down, and then when you reach this, the last one, everything is silent. It's ice. The sound, the movement, everything stops, and all these people, are into this lake of ice, from here to here to here, just the eyes, and then in the last one, they don't appear. They are just under the eyes, like that, like the way they fall, and that means that's really the end. That means for that, these people never exist. They cannot talk. Because you could talk to everybody, but then at one point, the devil, it's really about this silent, this complete. Your life didn't exist. It's not that you did the bad things. You didn't exist at all. So it's a very strong. Imagination, architectural imagination. And of course, this is the complete Dante project for the world. And I don't know if you know, but okay, we can see here, this is the hemisphere of the earth where we, okay, we are in Australia. Okay, now the other one, okay, the other one. Sorry for this. Jerusalem is here, Here is the point where Lucifer, fall into the earth, create this kind of Babel towers with circle, easier. Then, of course, where you put all this earth will appear here in the other hemisphere of the earth. That for Dante, it's only with water. We are living here, and this is just full of water, and that's the purgatory. And the top of the purgatory is this garden, Eden garden. This fantastic garden that it's close to the first, sphere that is a sphere of the moon, But they don't touch. In order to go from the purgatory to the moon, to the first, great sphere, you have to fly. Can go. You just, from here, that's really interesting, because Dante is walking, then walking, and then when you get here, even you don't have a possibility, you have to fly. Take all of this as an analogy of your life, because poetry is about this. Dante is, talking about this journey that everybody of us is doing. Everybody of us is sometimes, knowing when he's on earth or when he has to jump, in another kind of mental condition. And the paradise is basically all this sphere, perfect sphere. There are nine perfect sphere, and go, and then you reach the roses where God is inside, the mystical roses. And also, it's very interesting that, and this would, I don't know if I can. Okay, I will try to tell almost everything. This is earth. So this form and this kind of movement, it's what we do really. And in the paradise, if you fly, and then Dante flies, and he go through the moon, really literally. He say, God damn, I'm passing the moon, and nothing happened to the moon, and nothing happened to me. So he's really surprised. So, because the spiritual world that you can also think today is the mental world or whatever you wanna you wanna think about, it's really in a completely new condition, and the new condition is the condition of light. Okay. Now it's all about light. The paradise is all about light. Light gives Dante the distance, give the proportion. The words are words of light. So it's really all about this sphere of life, of light. Okay, here summarize the free project by Dante. Now, if you think that this is already a difficult program, because now you have to think, okay, I have Dante, I found out his architecture, his work. I found out that he has been building, a building that is conic, another one that, goes up as a mountain, then the sphere, and everything is so complex, and I really had to transfer and to translate, to find an analogy in architecture, which is not very easy, but try to think, just, all of this complex. You think it's enough? No. The problem becomes bigger because the client is saying, we are going to build this Danteum in the middle of Rome. So in the middle of the archaeological area, here, we can go here. In the middle of the most ancient pressure archaeological, all over the world. Here are all the imperial, the Fori Romani, that's the Basilica di Massenzio, Colosseo. I mean, it's like, okay, Dante plus, now you give me this side? That's not enough. To make it more complex, I give you a small side. It's just, this is the Foro. Okay, by I don't remember which one, and this is the area. So, I have a big problem with Dante. I have a big problem with the archaeological side. I have a small side, and this, what can I do? Now, do you have any idea? Maybe you have some ideas before. Okay, let's see. Try to think, and see. This is the situation, and. Okay, I can read it. This is the Foro di Traiano. They say all the Foro here, and they are, all rectangular shapes. Only the Colosseum is as a round shape that can be used, for what we talked before about Dante. But because the area is very little, you cannot really use any circular form to produce this architecture. Because now we start from the language of architecture. Stop about the poetry. We stop. Okay, as architect, and we are working in this area, I don't think we're going to do a round building there. It doesn't really mean anything because it's going to be, the Colosseo and then the little cake, but also in the middle of this Roman, archaeological site. You don't want to put around stuff. So they put they were looking for some example in the past, and, they thought that the building, this Danteum should have, its roots in the pre-classical architecture. So they were looking at an example in Persia, and where all these buildings are subdivided, in different shape, rectangular shape. So that's the only information. And now, what we're doing? What we're doing? That's really because we have. On one side, we say formal analogy. On one side, we have the round world of Dante. On the other side, we have the rectangular world of architecture. How can we join them? It's a big question mark. So they, at this point, to do this, they were looking at the Basilica di Massenzio on the other side, and they measure, and they see that the Basilica di Massenzio was built on a rectangular, on a golden section rectangular geometry. Okay, and so that's really the key. And this image it's really, how can I say? It's very important because the use of the golden section that is generally used in all the other projects, it's a very key moment for modern architecture, and for architecture, in all history. this goes back to the Greek. Give me a second to tell you this, even if maybe it's not part of, or directly of the story of the Danteum, but it's a problem that the Greek had. The Greek knew about the irrationality, the infinity, they knew all of this, Theaeteto or, Plato, but they couldn't solve it, and they decide to, instead of using mathematical terms, to use a morality, and say there are good and bad numbers. So we are using the good one, and we are not using the bad one. So these irrational things, this infinity, no, okay, that's the devil. Now, this thing is the Greek way of thinking, and is the end for them, because their mathematics then at one point end up to not to survive, and you have to see that this also comes from that big statement by Parmenides, who said, either you are or you are not, being or not being. That is the same thing, that is the same thing. Either you don't exist because you are irrational numbers, or you exist because you are a good number. And so the being and the not being, they were completely separate. Now, what happened here is, for me, it's a miracle again. It's like bringing the not being into architecture. So, because you really, with the golden section, you put the infinity, you can subdivide the golden section forever to infinity, and that means that you bring, not at the center, but into architecture, the not being. Now, this is a long thing. This is possible only because modern architecture has glass as a value of surfaces. But this, I just close this parenthesis because but it's very important, because our condition today cannot be Greek anymore. We have this condition of the golden section, and we live in this condition thanks to these people and architects that has been working in this direction. Now, see, that's a formula. So you have the golden section, okay? There you can subdivide it. At the same time, the golden section, include a square and a circle. So it's really the geometry that, is able to combine the two things. We don't know how still, but, it's promising. With this characteristic, the infinity of the rectangular, is here, and the square, as we saw in Dante, that's a central point that goes to infinity. So they have a different center, center of this relationship. But that's the solution. Now let's see how this if it works. It might not work. No, it works. Okay. I'm sure. I've done this before. So okay, so the Danteum is built up with two rectangular with a golden section, and all the subdivision are golden section. Everything is golden section. They are shifted. They are shifted in order to create entry and stuff, but most of that they are shifted to create, the figure of, is not really visible here, but the figure of the cross. That is another incredible figure in Dante. And with this construction, we get to this building, that's a plan on the ground floor. And have you ever seen in modern architecture a plan like this? For me, it has a formal quality that it's still like a diagram. And it's really incredible. I don't want to. I will explain you how it works using. That's sorry, just for historical. This is the drawing. This is the drawing where everything started. Giuseppe Terragni was not doing a lot of drawings. Like only the necessary drawings. And this is the drawings where everything is already there. Numbers, relationship. The entry, even the Jerusalem, as a ground. Okay, that's what I want to say. Now let's see in the new configuration how this works. How this works in terms of Dante. Okay, in terms of translating the round world of Dante. We have an entry here, and we arrive to this place. So first of all, there is no entry, no door, nothing, because you really have to have the courage to get in. And once you're here, you get to this desert place where nothing happened, and then you enter the selva oscura, this, forest where Dante lost himself, And this is a place where are going to be lost, because it's really a dense place full of, granite column. We're talking about 1.8 meters diameter, and between one and the other 80 centimeter. So just you're gonna get lost. But one column here is a glass column, and that's the poet Virgilio that is waiting for Dante to go through this journey together. And so you get lost, bam, 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 like in a labyrinth, and then you see this light, and so, Virgilio, okay, I see a passage, and you go through here, and then you enter this room that is the devil room. So the roof is black, the columns are red, lights, burning, and you see the organization is with 7 columns on a spiral with, following the golden section. Even the pavement goes down, so the golden section here is used to go down, okay? Then, okay, we don't care about this because this is a library, it's too long, we have to go to the purgatory. Okay, so from here, okay, you go in a passage and you arrive into the purgatory, who has no column at all. So it's a completely different condition and has a pavement with a golden section that goes up there. But then you enter from there. And it's also, you can see the different condition that in the poem is like, I see the sky again, finally, after all this hell. And then from this passage, you get to this, to this room of paradise, finally. You are in the paradise that you can see it stands on the black forest that is down here. And that's it. That's it. That's the cover, and this is the project. And you see now this relationship. Where is that? Yeah, see the golden section here on the roof with a cut for the light, for the inferno, and that's the purgatory with the large windows always going up, just to give a sense of that. And then the paradise that cannot be, of course, rectangular. Like in Dante, when he jump, when he fly, he goes to another geometry, a geometry of perfection. So the paradise is a square that anyway is a square of a golden section. So we can say, looking back, that the paradise is maybe the beginning, and then the paradise is a square and create a rectangular golden section that create the purgatorio, that create the inferno. So it's really like a multiple journey, that you can do once you know what it's about. And this is the building. If it were built in Rome, that's the entry. Now, let's go to the gift. We do 3 little journey. Well, 3 is the number of Dante, so 3 little journey into the building, and the building because it's a fantastic building with a fantastic poem. The fantastic poem contains a lot of allegories, a lot of stories, and also the building. But let's stay with the main 3. Journey that you can do through the building. Let's start with the first one. And the first one is the one that I was talking before. The relationship, the formal analogy with the poetry. So that's the forest, and this is the figure of Virgilio, the poet, waiting for Dante, into this incredible dark to get into. So see how architecture is able to express something. This is how you express that you're losing, that you don't know where you are, And also, I have to say that Dante and the architecture is say, if you don't lose yourself, you will never get to the paradise. also this. Because it's not that you get loose, I get lost. No, you really need to do this. You really need to lose yourself in a black forest, orientation, don't know who you are. There is a point in life that this happened. For Dante was in the middle of his life. For us can, happen anytime. But in that moment, that's the point where you can start your personal journey, your personal experience through life and through architecture. And so the second one is going into, see, that's really look like this incredible space with diagonal light. It's really burning. And then you get to the purgatory and you see immediately, to see the lights again, there's a kind of peaceful waiting, because these people have still a hope, to get to this room, who is the room of paradise, made out of glass column, glass column, pure glass column. So we are trying to, get this incredible effect. But you have also to imagine this once, if it were built, it would have been amazing. Now, this is Dante, and we say, let's start, the second one that I want to tell you. Because at the beginning, if you remember, we say it's a double building. Okay, it's a double building because we can do, a journey also through architecture. So if you really start this, and you see, you start from this emptiness, this desert, this pre-anything, the fact that we were able to use stone or to build, any kind of settlement, you say in English. Now, and this, belongs to a condition of architecture that really changed with, the introduction of this incredible column forest, because this, in the journey through architecture, is really the pre-classical way of looking at the world. What I'm trying also to say is that we have to understand how Giuseppe Terragni and all the other modern architects thought about architecture. Architecture is not it's a building, but it's not a building. Architecture is the way our mental organization work. So it's a room where there is a specific way of thinking. And every, different era had their own specific way of thinking. For example, this is the pre-classic, and you can see in the Black Forest that the dimensions of the space is not related to human, like it was, because before, and then in Egypt or in Persia, architecture was built, thinking about God, and God, had very different dimension from us, and so in this room. It's a room of that way of thinking. Then you move to the Inferno, and you notice that this is constructed by proportion. So there is a point in architecture, in the history of architecture, where we get this big ziggurat, this big incredible civilization that was going on for a long time, stop it. And then somebody, the Greek in this case, invented that we have to think and build things with proportion. So, and it's clear here that every column has, the proportion of the ceiling, and everything, even from the floor, then the column, and then, the roof, everyone has his own proportion. So it's like man started to think, to do, to see the world like this, to look for proportion, but also for to build like this. And then, of course, the next, this is some example, of what happened. Now, and this one, that is the Purgatory, at one point the column disappeared, and we know that the Roman architecture, has, completely, from that point, dealing with spaces that were become bigger and bigger because of the wall. because of making incredible wall I have a photograph, like the Pantheon, that's it, that's a purgatory. There's no, I mean, it's almost the same, light from the top, and great walls around. And of course, the paradise, in the view of the Danteum, is modern architecture. Modern architecture arrives, and completely change through the quantity of glass, through the fact that, the sublimation of matter, what they call the sublimation of matter. Stone and bricks are gone, they're not part anymore of the modern world, and so with these new materials, we are going to build a completely new world, and we are thinking in a different way. And so that's also something that you have it here, in Melbourne, with Federation Square. It's really, I would say, Federation Square is really in the Paradise Room, because the modernity is about this. You don't know if this photograph is up or down, if it's left or right, if, and this is really the question, of modernity, of the identity of modernity, that we don't have anymore a fixed identity column, but things that are related one to the other. Now, maybe you're very tired, but that's the last one, and I make it very short, but that's really the gift. I want to leave it to you. The art of memory. The art of memory has a long story, how to remember things, how just, everybody has his own system. And the peak point of the art of memory was, with Giordano Bruno, this Italian philosopher, who said once, how I do? I put things there, and then I come back and I found it. I put a thing in here, then and then I come back, it's there, it's just, okay, I know. And he said, by the way, at one point, that he has to leave Rome and go to Paris, because Rome, he put everything in, the city was not enough for his thinking. Oh, yeah, incredible. But I tried this. I don't know if you try, and it really doesn't work. I mean, probably, yeah. It might be that somebody of you are lucky, but I think there is an anthropological change. But my mind, I always put something, and then come back, it's just gone. Yeah. Okay. So I found very difficult, but I try. I exercise for 3 or 4 years, and then suddenly I say, no, look. Is the Danteum that is proposing a new art of memory. Now, if you want to try, I always, my students has a great success with this. If you try, there are basically 3 rooms plus the forest. They are very simple places. So if you really concentrate, then you can easily remember in a day maximum how they are, So it's like you can really go inside. They are not complex. They are very simple. Now, once you memorize this is like a room of memories where you can put really something, For example, you want to know. Okay, one of the biggest questions, you walk with a friend. What do you think about this building? It's good, and good or bad doesn't really mean anything, Usually I say, this is in the Inferno room. I like that one. That one is in the Paradise room. Because, these rooms, they really contains the parameters, the way, the perfect geometrical language, of different mind. And I know we are still full of people that, think like the Greek, like a Roman, and there are few people that think in terms of modernity, they stay in the paradise. But still, it's a great instrument to orientate yourself through architecture. It's really working, because even when somebody says, is this Egyptian or, late Egyptian or early Greek? That's, that it's enough to look at, to the characteristic, to the mathematical characteristic, of the people, the thinking, that is behind every style, every decoration, and then this is there. And it's a fantastic tool. So if you try to use, then it happened to me that I put more stuff, then I put colors, I put, some other, I don't want to tell you, but it's not in the sense that everybody has to build his own, and it really works for me, especially for contemporary architecture, that you never know what to say. At least you can say in which room and which word, which kind of thinking this building is proposing, So you can say, okay, this is in the Inferno, so we know this guy is proposing Plato, as a way of living. Okay. I don't say it's good or bad, but it's just a matter of knowing. And so it's a great tool for memories that I hope you can start using in the future. Okay, to finish with this image, I just want to say probably the last thing after this three journey, that most important one, the most for me at least, I hope for you, is this journey from an elementary identity, because when you start from the Black Forest and from the story, you see the story of the column, and you get to the glass column. This is also a personal story that you can take with you, because we always, I think, start with this identity of ourselves as an elementary identity. But then, through our journey, we learn, that, our identity should be, more related to the others, should be more sublimated into the glass. And also, in our journey, we're going from, this situation where the infinity point is outside us, in the golden session, is not in the center. So we're going, from a situation where we believe in something, as we can believe in God, in mommy, in daddy, whatever, And through this journey, this point, suddenly in the paradise comes into you, into the center. It's not anymore away from you. So it's here. The infinity is here. And I think this is a great discovery of modernity, and is probably, as Dante would say, the only things that we can do to save the world. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Attilio. Thank you very much for allowing us to see this work in a way that I don't think any of the sort of academic books have ever portrayed the work. But also, I think, to start to see the sort of mind of an architect, the architect Giuseppe Terragni. Remember, he only lived to the age of 39. And was effectively only an architect for 17 years. So I hope that, those of you that are here tonight and others that couldn't make it will get a chance over the next month to visit the exhibition upstairs and to see the projects. Again, it's not an academic exhibition. We don't try to tell you the whole sort of history and show all of the earlier sketches and stuff. It's much more impressionistic. But it is an exhibition that through the development and the work and the research that was done through the archives, through La Sapienza and the students and other research centers working together, provide a very new way of seeing the work, because it's been provided in a way that can be seen now in different positions and different formations and such. And so I invite you over the course of the next month to visit the exhibition in the Dulux Gallery, to come back again and again to get in a little bit more. There are 4 sets of videos playing. The Danteum is playing on the large projection screen. So images of moving through these spaces are playing. And then the computer-generated modeling for the other 8 or 9 projects that are part of the exhibition are playing through. So you can see some of these, and they all sort of end up with a superimposition of what they would be like had they been constructed in Rome. So these incredible 10 projects of Terragni and his collaborators, 4 projects in Rome, that leave an incredible legacy and, as Attilio has said, a modernity that is in fact different from all the others. Just to use Attilio while he's here, among other things, we'll have a panel discussion on Friday at 5 o'clock in the Singapore Theatre, which is one of the lecture halls just beyond as you came in through here. Because there is a whole other set of issues to discuss in terms of the role of architecture and questions of politics, power, and ideology. So we want to talk about that not just within the work of Terragni, although that's an important question, but also in general how architecture is a part of both power structures and political ideologies and what that means for us today in the world which we have found ourselves now. Finally, I'd ask you to please one more time to thank Attilio Terragni both for being here and for the exhibition and the lecture.